please. Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a problem here. Can say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
Long before the ill-fated flight of the Apollo 13, there were other disasters that befell the space program. On January 27, 1967, astronauts Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee perished when a fire in their spacecraft, the Apollo 1, took their lives while still on the launching pad. Years after Apollo 13, 7 more astronauts would die when a space shuttle exploded shortly after takeoff. The crew of the Apollo 13 narrowly escaped becoming one of these grim statistics. It took the collaborative efforts of scientists and technicians at Mission Control in Houston, as well as the resolve of Apollo 13 astronauts John Swigert, Fred Hayes, and Jim Lovell, to conquer the overwhelming odds against their survival. In the scientific community, there is no room for superstition. However, when the launch ship lunar landing was designated Apollo 13, superstitious naysayers began to predict doom. However, the attitudes of the powers that be within the space agency were unflinching. And since the planned liftoff was only days away, it would appear laughable to renumber the mission at such a late date. Soon, every numerological configuration came into play. The Apollo 13 was scheduled to lift off at 1:13 p.m. Houston time, or 1313 hours military time. Moreover, the spacecraft would enter the gravitational pull of the moon on April 13th. As fate would have it, astronauts John Swigert, Fred Hayes, and mission commander Jim Lovell were more than 200,000 miles from Earth and into the 3rd day of the flight when the unimaginable happened. A sudden explosion violently shook their spacecraft. Warning lights on control panels flashed on and off. Alarms and headphones pulsated. Within seconds, the spacecraft suffered a major power loss. Oxygen was venting into space, depleting the major element the crew needed to sustain life. In Houston, it was the beginning of a mad scramble. Technicians and scientists had to devise methods to attempt the rescue of Apollo 13. As the spacecraft continued to speed away from the Earth at more than 20,000 miles an hour, systems continued to fail, and although the trio on board struggled with the countless problems at hand, the calculations regarding the life support systems, the conservation of oxygen, rapidly falling temperatures, and the alteration of their return course to Earth, other thoughts would intrude upon their frantic efforts. And while certainly not a priority during a life or death situation, thoughts of earlier times, of friends and family, of honor, would somehow find a way to creep into their minds. Thoughts of the long chain of events which brought these 3 men to this time and place, almost 10 years after President John F. Kennedy set America on a course toward the moon.
That we shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from the control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times more than have ever been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. To go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept. Those who came before us made certain that this country rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
The first astronauts trained in simulators, master machines more complex than the wildest imaginings of science fiction. As their expertise and abilities improved, space became less of an unknown void and more of an ocean to be sailed. In the formative days of the space program, worldwide tracking stations were established, encircling the globe, thus making communication with spacecraft in orbit possible. Highly qualified technicians were required. Astronaut cameras gave a new perspective of the Earth, photographing the planet for the first time from their lofty vantage of space. This was a new time of hope and confidence for America. In his final Mercury flight, astronaut Gordon Cooper controlled re-entry by hand and splashed down only a few thousand yards from the prime recovery vessel. Every flight brought America nearer the ultimate goal, the moon. Project Gemini, with a spacecraft large enough for 2 astronauts, was man's next step into space. Many questions still remained along the pathway to the moon. Could astronauts walk outside a spacecraft and work in space? The Gemini flights answered these questions, proving they could. The foundation of experience gained in Mercury was refined and extended to Project Gemini. Team players in Gemini were called from government and private industry to form the nucleus of expertise required to go to the moon. But problems had to be overcome. Re-entry flight path control was an important prerequisite for a lunar mission. When returning from the moon at a speed of 25,000 miles an hour, spacecraft had to be controlled within 2 degrees. The Gemini spacecraft was designed to conform to that degree of accuracy. Gemini's flights demonstrated the success of this technique. The Gemini program built a foundation of knowledge and new capabilities to the body of technology that would take astronauts to the moon. At the conclusion of Gemini, questions about the abilities of man and his spacecraft had to be answered, and the 2,400 photographs taken while in orbit were used by scientists the world over to greatly increase the understanding of our planet. The 12 flights of Gemini had provided the experience and confidence to take the next step into space. Project Apollo. The immensity of the launch vehicle was equal to the enormity of the journey. Every part of the 6 million-pound spacecraft had been subjected to intense testing. Even before it left the launch pad, the Apollo craft was considered one of the greatest technological accomplishments in the history of mankind. The mission control teams had been refined and strengthened during earlier programs to reach their greatest level of proficiency. America ready to send a man to the moon.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The United States was undertaking the most distant voyage ever attempted by man. For the first time, 3 Americans rode the Saturn V lunar rocket.
Houston, you are go for staging, over. Roger, understand, sir. We hear you loud and clear, Apollo 8. Okay, the first stage was very smooth, and this one is smoother.
With the cutoff of their third stage engine, Apollo 8 was traveling faster than any man had before. A coasting uphill climb against the pull of their native planet. Now the third stage was just a useless mass. It was jettisoned and later put into an orbit around the sun. The crew now had an unobstructed view of Earth.
Earth now out of the center window. I can see Florida, Cuba, Central America, the whole northern half of Central America, in fact, all the way down through Argentina and down through Chile. Hey, you picked a good day for it. Houston, for information, I'm looking through the scanning telescope now, and I see millions of stars, most of them the vending from the S4B.
Lovell's proficiency of navigating the spacecraft with its onboard optical instruments would eventually earn him the nickname, the man with the golden fingers. His speed was such that he would be requested to slow down so the earthbound machines recording the data could keep up with him. The accuracy of Lovell's sightings were virtually flawless, symbolic of the entire mission, so accurate that several of the planned course corrections would be dropped as unnecessary. Astronauts, spacecraft, flight controllers, computers, the precision was fantastic.
This transmission is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth. We've been 31 hours, about 20 minutes into flight. We have about less than 40 hours left to go to the moon. All right, you're all looking at yourselves as seen from 180,000 miles out in space. Mike, what I keep imagining is if I'm some lonely traveler from another planet, what do I think about the Earth from this altitude? Whether I think it'd be inhabited or not. You don't see anybody waving, is that what you're saying? Well, I'm just kind of curious whether I would land on the blue or the brown part of the Earth.
Lunar orbit exertion would take place on the dark side of the moon. With the moon between the spacecraft and the Earth, all contact would be lost until it appeared on the other side. No one would know if the crucial maneuver was successful or not for 30 agonizing minutes.
We've got it. Apollo 8 now in lunar orbit. There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell.
By 60.5, good to hear your voice. Apollo 8 Houston, what does the old moon look like from 60 miles, over?
Okay, Houston. The moon is essentially gray. No color. Looks like plaster of Paris. Or sort of a grayish beach sand. We can see quite a bit of detail. The craters are all rounded off. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are newer. Many of them look like, especially the round ones, look like hit by meteorites or projectiles of some sort. Langrenus is quite a huge crater. It's got a central cone to it. The walls of the crater are terraced, about 6 or 7 different terraces on the way down.
Apollo 8 Houston. Apollo 8 Houston. Apollo 8 Houston. Apollo 8 Houston.
Apollo 8, over.
Hello, Apollo 8. Loud and clear.
Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus.
That's affirmative. You're the best ones to know.
The final plunge toward Earth occurred on schedule, December 27th. The command module jettisoned the service module to expose the main heat shield, allowing itself to assume entry attitude. It slammed into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour.
Ken Mattingly just put in a call and just frankly labeled it a radio check. He's gotten no responses yet. Ken Mattingly puts in another call. And there's Jim Lovell.
We're in real good shape, Houston.
Real fine.
So ended the flight of the Apollo 8, a successful mission for scientist, engineer, astronaut, and the world. The success of the Apollo 8 mission was followed by ever more spectacular achievements in the space program, culminating in Apollo 11's triumphant landing on the moon. Celebrations abounded. But Jim Lovell also yearned to step onto the surface of our celestial shadow. He patiently watched as his fellow astronauts took their place in the history of the space program. By the flight of Apollo 12, two more men, Pete Conrad and Alan Bean, had traversed the lunar surface. Now with Apollo 13, Jim Lovell and Fred Hayes were ready to make moonwalking history. While the final preparations were being made on Apollo 13 and outboard instruments being installed, Swaggart, Lovell, and Hayes prepared for their mission by training in simulators and checking and rechecking pre-flight programs until all was ready. In the early dawn hours of April 13 of 1970, ground crews made final equipment checks and made certain that the Saturn V rocket was completely prepared for the journey skyward. Throughout the long night, computers scanned data and geared up for liftoff. As dawn approached, the Apollo crew met for breakfast, then moved on to the suit-up. In the final hours before liftoff, technicians attached various life support monitors and made sure the spacesuits were airtight. The Saturn V seemed to call to the astronauts, but this was a time to rest. To refuel. To fine-tune. Then a short walk to the shuttle, accompanied by the best wishes of the press and NASA visitors.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Well, we have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1. This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Well, we have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1.
After 24 months of training, Apollo 13 was finally going to the moon. Liftoff was flawless. Now, pre-flight tensions and anxieties subsided. Jim Lovell had circled the moon several times on Apollo 8. However, Fred Hayes and Jack Swigert would be taking their first up-close look and were filled with a sense of expectation. But nearly 4 days would pass before the scheduled arrival. Onboard chores, tests, photography, and television transmissions to Earth would fill the time. In the early stages of Apollo 13's journey, Fred Hayes would occasionally press a button to activate a repress valve. This would cause a loud but harmless bang that would startle the shipmates. Ironically, his good-natured prank foreshadowed things to come. On the evening of April 13th, Most major television stations didn't even broadcast the live transmission from space. Their airtime was filled by regularly scheduled programs such as The Lucy Show and Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. The families and friends of the Apollo 13 crew monitored the 23-minute video feed at Mission Control. Jim Lovell is seen here with one of the few diversions available to the Apollo crew. Each member brought along audio cassettes of their favorite music. At Mission Control, Jim's wife Marilyn Lovell, with 3 of their 4 children, listened as the familiar sounds of the theme from the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey played from 200,000 miles away. Fred Hayes' wife, Mary, was also present for the broadcast. She was now pregnant with Hayes' child. Jack Swaggart was not represented by family members at Mission Control. He was the only member of the Apollo 13 crew, and of all the NASA astronauts for that matter, who was a bachelor.
You know, Fred's engaged in his favorite pastime.
He's not in the food locker, is he?
That's his second favorite pastime. He's rigging his hammock for sleep on the lunar surface now to try it out to see what it's going to be like.
Roger, sleeping and then eating.
When the transmission to Earth ended, a somewhat relaxed mood prevailed both in the spacecraft and at Mission Control. Only a few onboard chores needed to be completed before the crew could settle into a long-needed and most comfortable sleep. However, just a few feet away, an undiscovered fault in the wiring and oxygen tank number 2 would soon plunge the crew of the Apollo 13 into a desperate struggle for survival. The final directive from Mission Control requested what was rather a routine task, a turning on of fans housed in the oxygen and hydrogen tanks. This would stir the gases, thereby maintaining them at proper pressure levels. 16 seconds after the stir began, the spacecraft jolted and rumbled. On the instrument panel, a distress signal began to flash on and off. Then, the dreaded call was made to Mission Control.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by, 13. We're looking at it.
Larry, you don't believe that O2 tank 1 pressure, do you?
No. Search tank's good. Catch eye. Manifold's good. ECS is good.
A scramble began at Mission Control to solve this problem. Gauges indicated that 1 oxygen tank was gone, 2 fuel cells were disabled, and the pressure in the second oxygen tank was falling. What was believed to be impossible had happened. 4 vital systems had failed. A look out the spacecraft window confirmed what the gauge indicated. Apollo 13 was venting something into space.
Hey, you're looking out the hatch, so we are venting something.
Roger.
We are venting something out into space.
Roger, we copy your venting.
An announcement was then made at Mission Control, but not heard on Apollo 13.
Okay, let's everybody think of the kind of things we'd be vetting. GNC, you got anything that looks abnormal in your system? Negative, Mike. How about you, Ecom? You see anything that could be venting?
Let me look at the system as far as the venting is concerned.
Okay, let's start scanning. Okay, now let's everybody keep cool. Let's solve the problem, but let's not make it any worse by guessing.
As Apollo 13 continued to speed away from Earth at more than 20,000 miles an hour, the worst fears of Mission Control and the crew were confirmed. Oxygen tank number 2 had exploded, and oxygen tank number 1 was venting the last remaining oxygen into space. The mission was lost. Now the priority was to return the Apollo crew safely to Earth. The families of the crew and the world now learned of their desperate situation.
From ABC News Space Headquarters, here is commentator Frank Reynolds.
There has been an emergency in the flight of Apollo 13. The prime objective of the mission, the landing on the moon, the further exploration of the lunar surface, has been canceled, and now the only consideration that remains is the safe return of the 3 astronauts.
With life support systems almost gone in the command module, it was decided to use the lunar module as a life raft. The lunar module was designed to hold only 2 astronauts for 2 days. However, its separate oxygen and power supplies would now have to be stretched to hold 3 men for 4 days. It was further decided that the Apollo 13 would loop around the moon, allowing the gravity of the moon to slingshot the craft into a free return, a sort of coasting back to Earth, thus conserving precious power.
Okay, Aquarius, you're ready to copy P30 maneuver pad.
That's the purpose.
Okay, here we go. The purpose is mid-course correction for free return.
Having made the course correction for their free return to Earth, the crew now moved into the lunar module Aquarius. The command module Odyssey was powered down to save the energy needed for re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Temperatures now plummeted in the spacecraft, and the crew was confined to cramped, uncomfortable quarters. Additionally, while behind the moon, there would be a loss of communication. While this was a normal occurrence on all other space flights, Mission Control and the Apollo 13 grew far more ill at ease on this trip. Once this pass behind the moon was completed, the crew would be homeward bound. The utilization of the lunar module Aquarius had saved the crew from certain death. But statistically, it still appeared the spacecraft would run out of air before the crew made it back to Earth. Additionally, there was the concern that the command module Odyssey might not power up again after being idle in near freezing temperatures. If the engines failed, the Odyssey would crash into the Earth. Or if an ironic twist of fate occurred, the spacecraft would miss the Earth completely, and then in a gravitational tug of war, it would perpetually orbit between the Earth and the Moon, back and forth for an infinite time, becoming a macabre footnote in the space program. Communication with Mission Control was re-established as Apollo 13 rounded the moon. An order was issued to power down even more instruments and readouts. Every effort was being made to conserve power and consumables. Technicians at Mission Control determined that carbon dioxide was building up in the Aquarius to a dangerous level. Replacement filters from the command module Odyssey were available, but did not conform to the system in the Aquarius. Technicians were called upon to devise a filter adapter using only materials which could be found on the ship, and to coach the astronauts on building it. With a list of the materials needed in hand, the astronauts searched for various pieces of cardboard, tubing, plastic, and masking tape. The completed device was a thing of patches and scraps. It took nearly 2 hours to assemble the filter based on NASA's step-by-step verbal instructions. Thankfully, the mechanism worked. As soon as it was integrated with Aquarius' system, oxygen gauges showed an immediate improvement. With this problem solved, the long wait for re-entry began. Fatigue began to take its toll. It was a period where minutes passed like hours. All systems were shut down, and most onboard experiments were canceled, leaving few diversions to occupy the crew. The long wait was bad enough. Yet another small pleasure was denied the crew. Meals squeezed from plastic tubes had to be mixed with cold water, which wasn't very appetizing. Heart rates escalated due to the extreme cold and a lack of water. Fred Hayes developed a fever along with a bladder infection. Hours away from re-entry, Mission Control still had not relayed its complex list of instructions to the Apollo crew. Exact directions needed to bring the Odyssey back to life. So many problems had been confronted and overcome in the quest to return to Earth. The planet now appeared so close, yet still beyond reach. Two questions remained: whether or not the engines in the Odyssey could reignite, and could the spacecraft stay on course. After countless rechecks by Mission Control, the data required by the Apollo was ready for transmission. The crew collected every conceivable scrap of paper on board to copy down the instructions. The transmission and subsequent detailing of re-entry instructions took nearly 2 hours to complete. The weary crew needed much of the data repeated twice to confirm that the correct information was being recorded. The reactivation of the Odyssey command module was the one maneuver that must be perfect, or the Apollo 13 truly would be doomed. Once everything appeared in place, a personal message was relayed to all at Mission Control.
I know all of us here want to thank all you guys down there for the very fine job you did. That's a firm, Joe.
I tell you, we all had a good time doing it.
You have a good bedside manner.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said.
The service module was now jettisoned, giving the crew a chance to look at the damage to the Apollo 13. An entire panel had been blown away. It was unbelievable that the ship had survived. Knowledge of the extensive damage to the service module gave rise to new concerns. If the command module's heat shield had sustained even the slightest crack, there would be no chance that the crew would survive re-entry. Finally, it was ordered that the life-saving lunar module Aquarius be jettisoned, thereby commencing the re-entry sequence of the command module. The world held its breath. It was a miracle they had survived this far. Hundreds of ships and planes stood by while their crews watched the skies and waited. Apollo 13 then entered into the blackout period. For 3 minutes, there could be no contact with the command module, as extreme heat would block out all radio transmissions. If the returning capsule was off by only a few degrees, it could conceivably splash down hundreds of miles off course, away from any assistance. And if the heat shield was damaged during the explosion, the 3 astronauts would be burned alive. 3 minutes had passed, and still no word. Tensions mounted at Mission Control. A transmission from the Apollo 13 should have been received by now. Irrepressible thoughts of a problem occurring with the heat shield could not be avoided. Silently, the entire world waited. Finally, a sighting was made. The Apollo 13 had survived re-entry. Communication with Mission Control was re-established, and a collective sigh of relief resounded throughout the world. After all it had been through, Apollo 13 was coming in for a beautiful and perfect splashdown, and a happy ending. Tears of joy were shed as Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert returned from a doomed mission. A mission which brought them face to face with death. They went from the Earth to the Moon and back again. a feat that only a handful of human beings can lay claim to. In the centuries to come, many of those who circled the moon will no doubt be forgotten. However, the mission of Apollo 13 will stand out in man's conquest of space as one of man's greatest successes of all time.